Alan Quabbin Frimpong here, co-founder of Zeal. We are a national worker-owned creative arts alliance and social impact studio, and we're here in Inglewood, California, and joined by the lovely, the great Friday Jones.
The great?
Right.
Somebody put that on the t-shirt.
The great. The great Friday Jones, who's joining us. Really wonderful, amazing person, organizer, commissioner with the City of LA's Reparations Task Force. We are doing exhibitions here. We're doing planning as creatives and artists around what it means to own our means of production as Black creatives, which we know is very integral to these processes around reparations. And so we decided to do an exhibition in honor of the 2 years of the California Task Force, and really invited you into conversation to see the connections,
so incredible,
right, between the work that's happening at the municipal level, but also at the state level, and creators being able to express in their own ways, just having that relate to Black folks and our journey, history, but then also in the context of the United States.
Yeah. We have been extremely interrupted.
Yes.
So the quote in the context of these here United States is a provocative thought. Very. And ironically, when I read that quote, as much of this reparations work that I do, and I imagine a lot in terms of how we're going to get that part of the work done, but the imagining of the aftermath, if you will, of the reparations, of a restored nation. I think racism has really cost this country in ways that I think mainstream America has not quantified. Citibank tried to do a 20-year look back, but I think if you look back to the time of Reconstruction and how this place could have been better had Reconstruction not been subject to Confederate trains of thought and inviting Confederates back into government and continuing the stronghold of racism, daughters of the Confederacy and the education system we see, and then to put it in a modern context with what's happening in Florida and some of the propaganda films. I think that we almost lost 170, almost 200 years because we didn't take time as a nation to get it right the first time.
The setbacks.
Yeah. The fact that you created a space in support of the California Reparations Task Force and coming from some of the, I'm Beyonce and grassroots leadership, because I feel like we're the thought leaders, but some of the thought leaders and the organizations that really push the legislation and championed it through our legislature like to see creatives say, hey, this is our love language and this is how we're going to create conversation around reparations. I absolutely love the idea of it.
Tell me a little bit more around how the process has been for you. One, with your friends, comrades, colleagues, I think looking at things at the state level, looking at all of these harms that are really personal on the family, community, and then obviously the ecological broader level. And then now, how do you look at that and now say, okay, now I'm a commissioner for the LA, process and seeing the relationship between the two,
So it's been interesting, especially being involved with the state commission so early, and I have to shout out Chris Lawson, Coalition for a Just and Equitable California, Tiffany Quarles, Marcus Champion, Darlene Crumley, there are a host of folks, Josiah, I could name a bunch of folks who are part of CJEC, but we all kind of were part of YouTube's algorithm, and we wound up, I was listening or watching some videos of Martin Luther King, and this other YouTuber was suggested, and I started, listening to some of the things that they were talking about, and all of us were having the same experience. And then it kind of translated into how, okay, we're seeing each other online, we're seeing people activate in their different communities. How do we now get together? And so I did not know Chris Lawson. I always say he's a twin from another mother and father, because he and I are both Libra gang, star children. And I was like, hey, Chris, why don't we start getting these people in a Twitter chat? And I just started inviting people into the Twitter chat. And from the people who were invited, Chris started organizing like weekly phone calls so that we could actually talk to each other. The state of California, I've been a student of. I'm a fan of Camila Moore. She and I talk, and she's a confidant, and I respect her leadership on the state task force. And a couple of things I learned and recommended, I would say, to the city task force. We know that the state went through harms. I think they had education, housing,
creative, cultural, intellectual life.
I wish we could have had more. I sent out so many invitations for that one, because that's my wheelhouse, because I work in entertainment, but and I've seen what entertainment has been, and it is as predatory as sports are.
Right.
And this is Hollywood, and music and film
global city
come from here.
Place,
So they have their areas of harms, and so we said, okay, we're going to mirror those harms, because we want there to be continuity in work. And we also want to be able to take their insights from the two reports that they have issued, and we want to be able to potentially piggyback on either some of the positions that experts had during their testimony, or we want to be able to invite some of those experts in, because they have in effect been vetted by the state of California, right? And so as a municipal government for the city of LA, if you've been vetted by the state, it makes the process easier at the city level. So we mirrored those things, and we did something called homecomings. We had 2 homecoming sessions. They were online, they were well attended, and then I think we had our first hearing down at California African American Museum, downtown LA. And our partners are CSUN and Mockingbird. CSUN, is Northridge, Cal State Northridge. The team there has expertise that I think in the long run for the people of Los Angeles are going to be magnificent in terms of the information that we will be able to provide in terms of a report like the state did, but it will be specific to the city of LA harms starting from 1925, which is when the city was chartered. That is not when the city was founded. And we gotta respect our Afro Mexicanos who founded the city of Los Angeles, but the city as we know it in this incarnation, the charter was established in 1925, and so that is where our starting point will be. And so we're looking at 3 periods of time along with the harms. There's there's 1865 to 1925, because we do want to have an understanding of what happened prior to the founding of the city. Then there's 1925 to 1968, which we know is the civil rights laws that were passed federally. And then there is 1968 to present. So those are the 3 periods of time that we're looking at. But we're looking at the similar harms that were identified at the state level. And one of the ones for me that are really interesting, because we know California has some real serious 3-strike laws, is around family separation. And family separation, whether it's like just looking at foster care, it kind of crosses over into multiple areas. It crosses over into housing. It crosses over into education. It crosses over into the penal system, the judicial system, through imprisonment